Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns.
Hey,
that's amazing.
That sounds so good.
Well, obviously, that wasn't me, Fiona, or Hamilton, our co-host, who normally presents the show. We have a wonderful guest with us today, which is Mark. Mark, can you introduce yourself for our listeners out there?
Hi, I'm Mark Garkusha. I am thrilled to be here. I'm a nerd. First and foremost, a Dungeons and Dragons player, a TTRPG player, an actor, a voiceover actor, and I was trying to think of a clever button, but
Person?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, a human being.
And a loving human being.
I was going to say a human being to the best of my knowledge.
Yes,
Rip
not
off
an
the
AI
mask.
construct.
Yes. Well, so, Mark, how did you get into role-playing games and tabletop RPGs?
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and I was lucky enough to have, like, my neighbor who was my age, had an older brother who was like, 7 or 8 years older than us. It was the 80s, which was big for role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And so in addition to seeing like Slayer posters and all the cool hairband posters, my friend's older brother, Steven, he introduced us to Dungeons and Dragons, like the first, I guess it was second edition at that point, but still, the original stuff. And we went from like always like tracing the monsters in the monster manual and like doing that to actually like him playing a few games with us, which would end in our characters getting utterly destroyed whenever he had something slightly better to do. So it was a good introduction.
Gotta wrap this up, guys.
Yeah. And you open the chest and there it's full of magma.
Yeah.
Or lava. Whichever one.
Rocks fall, everyone dies.
Yeah. Dragon turtle pops out of nowhere.
So then how did you get from playing D&D to then being a DM? Was it an easy change? Was it just something you're like, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life now? Or was it something that it was thrust upon you and you had to take it?
Yes. Yes. Some people are born DMs, some people achieve DMs, and some people have DMs thrust upon them.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it. I'm a control freak. And
yes, indeed.
Yeah. I vacillate between thinking I'm better than everyone at everything and thinking that I am the absolute worst, which I think is like how to DM.
Typical narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to we're all friends here. We all know what we're doing. We're all DMs. We know what this is about.
Yeah. My narcissism is evened out by my complete lack of faith in myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have it. Yeah. Crippling self-doubt.
Constantly.
I think I have that written in a journal that I wrote when I was like 19 that like,
oh yeah.
I don't know if I said narcissism, but it is like my something is balanced out by my crippling self-doubt.
Yeah.
To see if I can find it.
We all had teenage diaries, don't we, that have crap poetry in them, but say things that we think are really esoteric. Yeah, I know. I feel that.
Was it mostly homebrew stuff then, Mark, or was it like published adventures or a mixture of the two that you were running?
I have never run a published adventure. Not that I don't want to, just that like, I don't know. I always have ideas that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I really do want to run an actual campaign though at some point. But no, it's always been like homebrewed stuff for me. I think because we didn't have it at first. We didn't have any access to it because we were just playing with Steve Addle, old murderous Steve Addle. And our characters never lasted long enough to do a campaign. So, but I would like to one of these days. They look great.
When you're running a game, what's your sort of like trademark in terms of like genre? Is it super high fantasy? Is it horror? Is it a mixture like action? Like what would you say is it like your trademark, would you say?
I think it is it's a mix of the high fantasy, but I feel like I always come back to, horror elements and also the trope of a former advanced civilization in ruins type thing. There's always that stuff sneaking in there.
I listened to the show when you came onto my show and I was listening to a lot of it then. And I've always described it as very heavy metal. I don't know if that feels right, but that's how I could describe it as like, it's a little bit edgy. It's a little bit like on that tinge of horror side.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because also you like the personalities that all of you brought to the table on the cast iron was like really kind of like great because you're all very professional acting people. So everyone was very well characterized. But with that, it made it very like, you're in it, you're here, yes, I'm ready. Sort of. That's why I kind of feel like that heavy metal. I don't know. Maybe that's how I see it, but maybe you wouldn't describe it as that.
No, I definitely appreciate that assessment, because I think we did try and go for that like heavy metal aesthetic, that kind of like, I think we used to say like, you know, it's the old school aesthetic with like new school sensibilities. You know, whatever that means. I guess that, you know, like we want that like cool, like dangerous, like fun, dangerous for the game, safe for the players. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good. Can I steal that? I like
please.
Without the t-shirt.
Dangerous for the characters, safe for the players. That's
although
right,
although our other motto was, if you die in the game, you die in real life. But you know,
that's on the back of the t-shirt. Yeah.
But also caveat: if you die in the game, you do die in real life.
So with all that then, obviously, so you've got this background in RPG stuff. How did you get into voice acting, and like what motivated you to do it? I mean, it's always been a big thing, but it's definitely becoming much bigger since the pandemic, because suddenly people are realizing that you can have your own home studios and people want a huge diversity of voices. So I just I'm very interested, like what motivated you to pursue that career?
I think I did what is the easiest way to get into voice acting, and that is to go to acting school and then do a bunch of unpaid theater for like 10 or 15 years while bartending. And then after about 18 years of bartending, have a woman come into your bar and say, hey, you've got a great voice. And then have that woman become your agent. That's, I think, the easiest way to do it.
Oh, you had the magical moment of like, it's going to happen. They're going to come in. They're going to find me. And you actually got found whilst being a waiter.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it only took 20 years. No, it's
but we'll skim over that bit. It still happens.
Yeah. Heavily edit that to make it sound really nice.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's one of those things that like you kind of have to be doing it because you like doing it, and then you have to be like, to get to a point where you can, you know, do it full time. You have to just be like super duper lucky. I feel like, you know, especially with voice acting is not something that like you can get away with being bad at and still do it. You know, like I feel like there's a lot of actors out there that you see them in a movie and you're like, why does this person keep getting put in movies? Tom Hanks. No, I love Tom.
America's dad.
America's dad. But with voice acting, there's no kind of layers between the audience and the actor. You know, it's just like going like directly into the brain. And I think that's why, you know, so many people are like, oh, voice acting. I feel like it's the new stand-up comedy. Like before everyone started thinking about voice acting, like anyone who would think about stand-up comedy, be like, oh, so you stand up there and you tell jokes. Like, I'm funny. People tell me I'm funny.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a shot. And I hope to God that none of this comes off gatekeepery, because that's not what I'm trying to sound.
No.
But yeah, it is one of those things that like, I think I remember, like actually the way I kind of got into audiobooks was I saw one of those like Instagram reels that was like, hey, do you have a microphone? Do you know how to read? You can make $1,000 an hour. And that is, of course, very untrue.
Yeah.
But it was how I like found out about some of the like the websites and stuff. And I went on the websites, and now I make nowhere near that much money per hour, but some money per hour sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of like this thing where, thank you for giving me permission to ramble.
Of course. Please.
Ramble away. Join us next time when Mark gets to a point.
This is the show, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you fit right in. So
I told you I listened. Like, to somebody who's trying to get into it, I would say like take some classes. Don't take really expensive ones. Focus on ones that are being taught by casting directors, because they are the ones who will.
They might give you a job.
Exactly. If you can find one that's being taught by an agent, that's also great, because they might want to represent you. Don't spend too much money on it at first, because, it's a crapshoot. And do research your classes, because, in the same way that, there has been an explosion in voiceover work. Like when I started, and I haven't even been doing it, I've been doing it since like full time since like 2016. Wow. And when I started doing it, this is, back when all the auditions were in person, I would see the same 6 guys in the lobby every time I would go in front. It was like the same 6. It was me, Ryan Andes from Cast Eye, and like 7 other guys. And it was just like the 10 deep voiced jabronis who come in and audition for every commercial. Now there's a million people. Now no auditions are in person. All auditions are online. So, there's a much more competition. What's the way to say it? It's much easier to like get in the gate, but it's much harder to like, I don't know, get in the house.
Well, it's to stand out. So, because I'd say like, because I've done a couple of stand-up classes as well, and it's so true, that attitude of like, I can do this, because you definitely can, but it's such hard work, certainly for stand-up, because you have to write stuff. Because I'm an improviser, so I can do the performance element. Okay, I still get nervous and stuff. Writing wise, my God, it's so difficult, because what you think is funny is different, and like trying to make people laugh who are suddenly in direct competition to you, and it's really just about doing it and getting experience and stuff like that. So I completely agree. I think it, like you said, it feels now a lot easier, because in terms of like equipment, you can rent stuff out, you can start small, etc., like that. But as a result, you do have to stand out. Like one thing I always say, and I know Hamilton would agree with this as well, it's very easy to start any project like audio or video, like you can just do it, but to get it a really good quality, you have to put in a lot of effort, and you might not get back what you put in, but even though the quality is there. So yeah, I feel that it's not gatekeeping at all. It's just like, it's a lot of hard work, it's not easy, and it's not $1,000 an hour.
Manage expectations is what I would say.
I remember I heard someone say something that very high percentage. They did a general public poll of people in England. I believe it was in England. I don't know. It might have been in the US. Of, do you think you could be an Olympic champion or an Olympian? And a very high proportion of people go, yeah, if I had the time and I put the effort in, I could be an Olympic champion. And people think that. And I think that's just what we're getting at, is that, yes, everyone can do it and everyone could put the thing, but you've got to really put the hours of training and all of these things to be ultimate, I think.
To illustrate the disparity between, I won't say flat intelligence between English people and American people, but maybe education. I think you guys are definitely better educated than we are over there. On average. This is a big country with some very dumb states in it.
The listeners can't see us, but both me and Hamilton sort of like looked at each other and shrugged a little bit, like, nah.
Yeah, it's all perception. We're doing good PR, England.
They had the same thing here, but it was like, do you think you could fight a black bear and win? And people answered, they're like, yeah, probably. If I got him like a rear naked choke, I probably could take him down.
There's always lots of factors about like, I'll from behind, and if I got the jump on them, you're like,
right. Yeah. Do I have a surprise round? Maybe.
I know.
Maybe. The reason sort of we've invited you on today, Mark, is that we wanted to talk about a book that you did the voiceover for. So that is Oathbreakers Anonymous. And I first of all, well done. I mean, I know that sounds like very British sarcasm, but like Hamilton says, like, you should listen to this book. Not only is it a good book, but the guy who voices it is really good. I'm like, yeah. And this was like 2 weeks ago. And then I get a lovely little code. I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it. And then I've listened to it today, and I'm like, it is very good. So kudos, I guess, is the answer to that.
Proof that Fiona never listens to any of my recommendations, for example, 150.
Yeah.
Personally, I was raving about how good this was. And I even think I messaged to you to try not to be too fanboy, Mark, and be like, this is really good. The twist, which I won't spoil, but freaking God. Oh my gosh, what is this? Oh my gosh, incredible. And I know you're an amazing talent at voice acting. I've listened to your podcast. You were on Dragon's Duel with me, and you did very off-the-cuff voices, and it was very impressive. Not only is it a very good story, but I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. I love audiobooks because not a lot of people know this, but I have a lazy eye. It doesn't get very lazy unless I'm really tired. So I can't read books at night very well. And so listening to audiobooks, great. But yours was not just someone reading me a story. It was an adventure. It was listening to an actual play, but like a movie. It was like having a movie.
Yeah.
You just brought it This is another Fiona and Hamilton interview people. We just praise them.
Yeah,
We chuck
it pretty much
praise
is all we do.
It's great.
But it was just like, for anyone who hasn't listened to it, don't listen to it when you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say, because it's so interesting and you're like, and hooked by the story, but also just the characterization. I wrote a review on Audible, and I hope it.
I saw it. I saw it when I was like,
did
"Who's
you?
Hamilton giving 5-star reviews?"
Yeah, but I want people to know that if you enjoy D&D, I'm just going to put this down here now in case I forget. Definitely listen to it, because it's one of the best adventures I've listened to, and just you brought it to life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, I've said enough praise. There you go.
I don't know. No, that's so lovely.
Now into the criticism. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now to the hard part.
The question I was going to have, though, is clearly could see you were enjoying it. What was the process for it? You have an agent, so I'm assuming, did this come through your agent, or did you see this opportunity and went, get me that sort of thing?
Yes. So my agent is looped in through the audiobook stuff. However, this one I did find, and I saw it and I said, yeah, I really want to do it. The website where I found it, ACX, has an opportunity, like when you send in your audition, you can also send a message to the author. And so I did that. And I was like, listen, I loved the 5-minute section that I read. This sounds amazing. It sounds like it's right up my alley. I listed my nerd credentials.
Yep.
And I had a blast working on this book. The author, Scott, he's incredibly talented. Like I really enjoy working on audiobooks because, they afford, someone who like myself is an actor, an actor. First and foremost, I get the opportunity to play a lot of different characters, which is really, really cool, in any context, in any book. But this one especially, because it kind of has that more I don't want to say outlandish, but I said, it has a lot of Pratchett vibes. It's got,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very aware of itself humor sort of thing.
Yeah. And it gives you kind of room and freedom to really kind of get into these characters and make them fun and unique. And I was thrilled the entire time doing it.
It definitely feels, very Douglas Adams, that's something. Yeah, I agree. That sort of Terry Pratchett, aware of itself, and also using sort of real world things and making them analogies of them, but with the high fantasy stuff, which I really, really appreciate as well. And it feels like a really interesting story. So the get-go, so the Oathbreakers Anonymous is essentially about a paladin who loses their faith through some sort of incident, and then they go to almost like one of those AA meetings analogous for that, and then they journey together with 3 other paladins who've also broken their faith, so to speak, to go and retrieve it in some way. And of course, as Hamilton said, there's a twist at the end, which we won't spoil. But all of it is engaging. Like you said, the characters are all slightly different, and you characterize them so well, and that they all sort of stand out. And they, like I was saying to Hamilton before we came on recording, was that for me, it really feels like somebody explaining their idea of a campaign. It feels very unique. It feels like the authors actually run this campaign. It's just something that's come out very naturally. None of it feels forced at all, if you see what I mean. I know it sounds so stupid, but it feels very film-like, but I actually think it's almost like TV show like, because you can see I'm now for the next chapter, okay, we're now gonna have a bit with the goblins and how we're gonna deal with that first encounter, and then how we're gonna do it with the werewolves, etc. And going to these it feels very episodic like that. I could imagine this on that sort of big screen, in the sense of it felt very much like what the D&D movie for me was trying to do. So that on Amongst Thieves, it was trying to hit that humor, and I felt this did it much better.
100%. Oh yeah, I was like, this would have been great with those little tricks as well, when they do the grading. There's a grading system in it for people. People who don't know that it's you get given a grading for your ability. So you are a fighter, iron, or pig iron, I think, and steel, and they are given a number, and it's so on the nose, but done in such an clever and interesting way enough, and everyone holds their badge, and you have the kids who've just got their one, and they think they're so cool because they've just got their power and stuff like that, but everyone's lording over them. So it's that kind of thing that would be so great to have in the movie, but it made little nods in a really fun way. I loved it.
Yeah, he does a great job of kind of skirting the line between the lit RPG genre and just kind of like a, kind of like meta, wink of like, yes, I'm a Ranger 7, it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm allocating my skill points and, doing all this other stuff that you might see in like in a lit RPG, but it is aware that like, this is based on Dungeons and Dragons. And
Yeah.
I think I did ask Scott, like when I was working on it, I asked him, I was like, was this a campaign that you ran? And he was like, no, not exact. Like it's not a, just an adaptation of a campaign, but there are like elements, there are like one character that he had like played in a campaign years ago. He kind of like brought back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I like that.
It is something like as I was reading it, as I was working on it, you could just, it comes through like how much Scott loves and appreciates Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games. And, and he said like, because of his job, I don't even know like the full details of like his day job, but he like travels all over the world and flies around in helicopters and stuff and does really cool, important things.
So cool. So important.
Yeah. And in his downtime, or when he's like, I don't know, trying to sleep on a helicopter, he writes books, which is pretty cool. But
wow. Oh, in my spare time, I just write really funny, really well-written books. No.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I watched Arrested Development again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
No, but he was like, he said because he hasn't been able to like really play a campaign in a long time, this was kind of his way of like, scratching that itch and to all of our enrichment.
Moving back onto voice acting, I want to like go into the like warts and all of it though, because it's a great story. We've said that, but how do you do it? Do you do it like it's a 10.5-hour story? Well, you're not sitting down for 10.5 hours straight, I'm assuming.
No, it's all one take. One take.
Wow. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. No, but how long does it actually take to record that? How long are you given? Do you do it like over a few days? Is it over a week? I can't even imagine. I can't even think to imagine how you go about like putting that together.
Even preparing for it, I guess, for something like this, is it? Obviously, I know you do like a range of different audiobooks as well. So is there something that you do particularly for a high fantasy book compared to the other audiobooks that you normally do?
So to start with like time, I'm a studio, basically. I'm the producer. So I record it and I edit it and I
edit it
I
as
get
well.
hired. Yeah.
Wow,
So I get hired as the production company, basically. And so I get hired and then I give them a finished product.
Wow.
Even more kudos then.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah. That is, I said at the beginning that I like listening to the sound of my own voice. Not that much, though. Not that much. It does get old. I've got it down to a pretty good, like when I started, it was a nightmare. But I have streamlined the process through like, again, like I took some classes on like how to do it. And you can never, there's always another class to take. It's like, oh, I took an acting class. Great. Now I took a voice acting class. Great. Now I took a voice acting for audiobooks class. Great. Now I took a voice acting for nonfiction audiobooks class. And so, there's always more classes to take. But so I have gotten it down. The first book I ever did took me like, I don't know, 100 something hour, more than that. I don't know. It was a nightmare. But now, about a year and a half into doing it, it takes me about 4 hours to produce 1 hour.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Depending on where my, attention deficit disorder medication is, how many hours actually get done in a day. Very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard when you work for yourself and your boss is a moron. It's a process. Definitely the reading it is the most fun part.
Of course. How long do you sit down for? Do you cut? Because you've got to obviously keep this instrument, well tended for. And there's some moments where you're getting quite animated, like if I'm, talking at pitch for 2 hours, I'm like,
by the end of it, yeah.
So do you have to like regulate that? Do you do it in stages throughout the day and sort of break it up?
Yes. But also that's where the training comes in too, not to sound like that's when some of the training kicks in. No,
but that's fair. That's true.
Yeah. I went to a conservatory program for college. So, I just studied acting, and a lot of that was voice and speech classes, and like how much of that was breathing and how much of that is like, like keeping your instrument safe and all that kind of stuff. So, but even with that, I'll do like an hour or two in the booth recording, and then I'll come out and I'll edit for a while. And then
Right.
so I'll switch it up.
Yeah.
And in that hour or two in the booth, I will probably actually record 40 minutes of
Mhm.
actual, because
Yeah.
like I'll
Rework bits.
yeah, I'm a terrible boss. I'm very, very lackluster boss. But as a director, I'm an asshole because I will
Mhm.
just keep doing the same thing over and
Yep.
over and over again.
As someone who does now YouTube videos,
Yeah.
I do a 10-minute video. I think I was editing down today. I thought, this will be at least 15 minutes because there was an hour and 45 minutes of me doing it. And there was
No.
one sentence I did for 30 minutes. I just couldn't get it, and it was literally just going, I was like getting, and because I've got it all recorded, it's like, Hamilton, you're a fucking idiot. Like,
Yeah.
you just got to say it like this. I've read it. You know what you're going to say. And I feel you on that.
Yeah. I will say that's one for any nascent audiobook readers out there. There's something called punch and roll recording, which I didn't do at first. It's basically like without punch and roll, you just record everything and you just keep, if you mess up, you just start over,
Yeah. Mhm.
at the line or whatever. Punch and roll, you go back to like right before you messed up and you listen to the 5 seconds going up to it and you go back in. And that has been an incredible time saver just
Oh, my
because
My God, yeah.
I might still be in the booth for 10 minutes, like starting over. But then when I come out to edit, I don't have to like skip through that 10 minutes of, trying to see like which clap is the right one. There's like 500 claps here and I don't know which one is which.
Yeah.
What I normally do is when I get it right, I stop the recording and then start a new recording because the system I'm using isn't very good at like the stop start because I'm probably not using it. I probably should be using Audition or something like that, but because I'm recording it in like OBS, which is probably not the right way to do it, then I just stop recording start because I know the last one is the right one.
That's a good idea.
But I like the punch roll because probably the listening to the beginning of the last 5 seconds actually probably helps you.
Yeah, because obviously your intonation is always going to be slightly different because obviously by the time you're like, I just want to say this one word, and it just sounds really awkward if you're just like in the middle.
No, there is some of those, and I have to like try and edit them
what's
out.
wrong? Yeah.
Why is he so frustrated all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate it, Mark. You've probably listened to a couple of our episodes. You all know, and our listeners also know that both myself and Hamilton are terrible at pronunciations. So I wonder, do you have any tips or any sort of like anything that you do when you see a word that you struggle with, even if it's just like a normal word to everyone? Do you have any like tips about like how do you get it right without, like, as you said, getting really frustrated and like wasting a lot of time?
Look it up immediately. Don't like there's a few reviews out there that are like, this guy's an idiot. He pronounced conflagration wrong. He's an absolute moron. He should stop doing this. It wasn't quite that bad, but like, I think because I was a reader as a kid and like I read a lot of words and I don't know how to pronounce all of them.
Hermione comes to mind for me.
Hermione
for Hermione. That's what I call it.
Right.
Until the movies came out, I was like, Hermione. That's who it is.
When I was a kid, there was a DC Comics big old crossover event called Armageddon. And my friends and I were calling it Armageddon. And
that sounds amazing.
It does sound.
That sounds like the Scottish Armageddon, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Once every 100 years, Armageddon.
When there are two Highlanders.
Yeah,
it's Armageddon.
Now you're speaking my language. The internet has a lot of like good assets. There's this French guy who pronounces words. He's one of the first people comes up when you put in whatever word pronounce. He's like, today we are talking about how to say this word in English. You might say, I don't know. He's a little Spanish, I guess, in my mind.
There was a good one. There's an American one who does like how to say things in an American accent. He's got like this New England voice. It's kind of great just to listen to. And because he does weird esoteric words like the famous watch that's got tag as the first word. Then and I've always called it like tag Heyer or tag Hoa. And it's actually Tag Hoyer, according to this guy. But it's like things like that. But he's good as well. I can't remember his name, but it's like a New England sort of like horsey New England voice. And he says all these words. They're good fun to listen to sometimes.
What gets me and what might get me put on like some watch lists, the big series that I do is the Jason Trapp series where, it's like a CIA agent who got burned and, saving the world. They're awesome books. I love them so much. But the reason that they are probably putting me on government watch lists is because I'll be looking up like when it's an M2642 helicopter surface to air missile, like do you say M24? Do you say M24?
Yeah.
And then I'm like looking up like how to pronounce a base in Tehran, and I'm like,
but isn't looking up weaponry just a general American data pastime? Sorry, I just assume that's what all Americans. Yeah, pastime. M25. Which one am I going to buy today? A howitzer? I don't know.
Yeah, I live in a blue state, so I can't just look in my collection.
Oh, right, okay.
You can't be like, I think I've got one of those somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I was the same. So I run a bit of alien RPG, and of course, I'm looking up all these different Greek names for different spacecrafts, and I'm just like, I just want to call it a ship, but no, I've got to go. And then I'll be listening to it, and then be like, oh, what's this chemical that burns all the aliens? And I was like, oh, it's used once in the film, and I'm like, I'll just listen to that clip over and over, so that when I run it on stream. But that's one thing. Again, one of our things is that we wish that in the published adventures, some of them do it and some of them don't, but they have a pronunciation guide. But a lot of the time they don't, and they're only just now on D&D Beyond. You can listen to like how to pronounce names.
Matt Mercer,
Matt Mercer and Marisha Ray, but they don't do all of them. And it's kind of like, I get it for certain ones, like okay, they're named characters, but like both me and Hamilton always like go blah blah blah, like, and just like muck it up essentially, so that we don't get criticized for getting it wrong. But like, which obviously you can't really do with audiobooks. So it's just the one thing I would love more people to just do, like you said, just like record how they would pronounce words, and then I could just listen to the whole range and then hopefully come up with my own version.
Absolutely. Rather
than just shy away from pronouncing a word as it should be pronounced, if you see what I mean.
Well, I use something called Positron, which is a really great editing tool. And what you can like input the manuscript, and it'll go through, and like, for one thing, it'll say like, these are all words that are on our like, difficult to pronounce list. So it'll have like, here's how to pronounce it, which is awesome.
That is amazing.
Cool. But it also has a thing where you can look up like unique words or names or whatever. So that was kind of invaluable when I was doing Oathbreakers, because there's all these, names of
fancy
places
names.
and, character names and different, city names that might be mentioned once in chapter 3, once in chapter 20. And, so it was great because Positron gave me that list, and then I sent it to Scott Warren, and I was like, hey,
you've got the author, haven't you?
I was like, yeah. And I kind of like, I took a crack at like reading all of them, and I sent him the recording, and he wrote back. He's like, actually, this one is like this one is like that. And then I had it. So that was great.
That's awesome. Yes, that's an easy way, rather than to bother Scott constantly. But like, by the way, how do you say this word? Like, just leaving him lots of voice notes.
Yeah. It's worth it when you're producing an audiobook and getting paid for it to splurge on Positron. If you're running a campaign, it might maybe not. Unless you're charging your players.
Different way of doing it. Yeah. So you better get these names right, and you'll write them down right in your notes now as well. So.
If I hear you say adamantine wrong, there's going to be a problem.
What's your favorite part of the book that you got to sort of like voice at all? Was there a particular part, without, I guess, too many spoilers, but was there a bit that you really, really enjoyed?
Yeah. My favorite character, how do I say this without spoiling too much?
I know which bit it is, though.
You can probably tell by listening to it. It's a character who has a kind of like a cult leader. He has a microphone. I kind of went for like a Matt Berry aesthetic, and that was just that was so much fun. I was very sad when
beep 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 beep
beep beep beep beep.
La 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 la. Like we've already said before, but your depth of characterization was really nice to hear that, because sometimes it's very difficult to tell the difference between when you listen to certain audiobooks. So that was really nice. But the flip side of that question, and was there a part that you found challenging, but was obviously rewarding once you sort of got over that challenge? I appreciate recording an audiobook in general is a challenge in itself, but was there anything about the book in particular you like, just need to think about it a bit more, or anything like that, if there was any? Because sometimes you're like, it's my job, I can do this.
No, it was all easy. No, I spent a lot of time, and hopefully when someone listens to this part now and says, he spent a lot of time on this, was the werewolf singing.
Yes.
That I spent a lot of time on. I hope I spent enough time on it that people are not just immediately taken out by the fact like this guy can't sing.
No, it was fine.
No,
No,
did not think that at all.
Okay,
No,
good.
I was just like,
Good.
it fit in with the whole of the high quality bit.
All right, good.
I think that's the other thing that is impressive, because I was saying to Fiona off podcast like about like the characterization, and I know you'll probably say it's because I went to acting class and this is the answers, but it's because like when I'm DMing, I'll be like, I'm going to give this person an accent. I'm going to give this person this characterization, right? And the key ones I'll probably keep, but one of them will be like Dave, the NPC, you know, it's going to be like, all right, they're going to be Yorkshire, right? And then 2 weeks later, turn up again, and it's like Dave, and now he's a Cockney. You know, I can't remember. I always thought, you know what these audiobook people must do? They must record all the lines of that same person
in one go,
in one go, and then do the other person. Because that's stupid to think that, but it's very impressive that it comes. You keep that character because you've got literally every single accent you could even imagine is pretty much like is put into this, and all well done. And it must have been really difficult when you've got 4 or 5 of those having. Because when you're a DM and you're having a conversation between yourself, it can be like a bit of a hard thing to do. But you're holding all these people. Is it just, I've got this down. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. Or is it still actually quite, does that become more challenging?
Yeah, challenge, yeah.
Sure, there's definitely a challenge, but I think it comes down to the training, right? That's when the training kicks in. And also listening and responding, you know, so like, from improv, you know, like you have to be really tuned in on your scene partner, and you have to really be listening to what they're saying in order to respond to it. I remember when I was studying Shakespeare, there was a really cool exercise we would do, which I think is something that they did back in Shakespearean times, was you would just get the last 3 words of the line preceding yours. So you'd have to be like listening for those words, and you'd have to be like really keyed in on your scene partner in order to know like when you're going to speak. And so I think that, you know, listening and responding to myself, I guess, is a big part of it. You kind of, you know, you try and like get into each character so that.
Do you do that? Do you shift? Do you move? Do you like, do you absolutely adjust yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I do. I move, like I'll be on one side of the mic and then I'll come on the other side of the mic. The issue, I'm usually pretty good about keeping the characters separate. What does happen sometimes is that I'll go back into like just this regular narration voice, and I'll still have and he said walking away, and I'm like, no, regular narrator voice.
Come back. Yeah, ground it.
Yeah. But the characters I can usually keep pretty straight. I do have notes. I do write it down.
Do you do like a practice run when you're coming up with these voices? Do you do like a little like, okay, I'm going to just spend a bit of time on Marlock now. I'm going to just spend a bit of time on Ram. I'm just going to workshop these characters. I don't know. Do you take like a scene and just workshop each one, or how does that process kind of come about?
I'll have an idea, and then I'll kind of like read or do like a monologue or something in their voice and try and like get it dialed in. And then I will write it down with like, you know, higher pitch. It's more like a chest voice. It's more of like a nasal voice, you know, try and like write all that down. And then if there's like an accent that I'm doing, I'll put an accent. The more, defined and dynamic the characters are, I think like the easier it is. And that's why I have an easy time on Oathbreakers, on the Jason Trapp series, on all the books that I've done under my real name. I've had an easy time differentiating the characters. Although there was one time where I did a character, and like he was in like the prologue, and I gave him like a, you know, Commander, we have to, you know, if we don't get these missiles, whatever it is, you know. And then he came back like 30 chapters later, and I was like, this guy, I think, is going to sound like Richard Dreyfuss. And I recorded the rest of the book. And then when I was like coming back to the beginning, I was like, oh shit.
Oh no.
I've got to do those first couple chapters over because
that's not Richard Dreyfuss.
That's not no. Yeah, you can get away with that on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they got 10 years to make that stuff. So.
a different The Mountain every season. But no, mine have to match.
Yeah, see, I do that when I was running Bowie's, and every time I was doing my commute, I would practice the voices I was going to be doing that night in the car.
Yeah.
And I think I told Fiona this once. I was doing and it is a good way of doing it. And I would do because I'm driving, I'll quickly go, Siri, open voice memos.
Yeah.
And record it and try and do it then, because I gotta remember this for tonight, and I'll listen to it on the way back home.
Yeah, that's another. I'm gonna plug Positron here again. That is something that you can do. Like once you have all the names of all the unique characters, you can then record a little sample of their voice.
Oh, incredible!
That's really good.
Positron, if you're listening and you want to give me a break.
I was going to say, I'm surprised. Where's your Positron T-shirt and the hat that you're wearing?
If you turn the hat around, it says
Banner's going to come down the back. Yeah,
a big banner.
Yeah.
Is there going to be another book?
I certainly hope so. I know, like some of his other books, he's written series and they're ongoing series. And it's not a spoiler to say I think there is room for another book. Absolutely. I said to Scott, if you do, I would love to do it. So I certainly hope so. Maybe even a certain, charming vampire could be resurrected. I don't know. Maybe.
I hope so.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I would love to. I had such a blast working on that book.
Amazing. Well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time, Mark. But thank you so much for spending, obviously, presumably a very busy time for you, being in the booth and stuff, and just listening to us sort of say you're amazing, and then talking about this book for an hour.
It was awesome.
Thank you. One of our sort of final things is is there anything you would like to plug? Anything upcoming projects? Obviously, we'll put a link in the show notes for Oathbreakers Anonymous and your work as well. But is there anything that you'd like to plug just now?
Yeah, I mean, despite been an hour-long plug for Oathbreakers, but
but just in case.
Oathbreakers Anonymous by Scott Warren. You definitely go check it out. And the other ones I've worked on, the Jason Trapp series is don't just listen to it to support me. It's like a best-selling, political thriller series. So if you like that stuff, you should definitely listen to it. And speaking of sequels, a book that I did last year, Cryo, which is like a very cool sci-fi, emotional, dystopic. There we go. Should have looked that up. Dystopic.
You needed
you need the positron.
Positron. To me, Blake Fisher, the author of that, just reached out to me about doing the next one. So that's exciting.
And if we want to hear your wonderful DMing, where can we find your podcast?
At Cast Eye Podcast on all the social medias. We haven't put a new episode out in a little while, but I think that's going to be changing pretty soon.
Ooh,
exciting.
Oh, exciting. Wait till they hear Ryan Andy's voice as well.
Yeah.
When you put the two of them together, it's kind of like, bloody hell.
Is it like honey?
It's hot in here.
Chock full of good voices. It's old school. What did we say before? Old school
vibes.
Old school vibes meets new school sensibilities. Old school aesthetic meets new school sensibilities. And if you die in the game, you die in real life.
That's why the show ended for a while. You had to pause it until you find new players.
Because everyone had died. Is that what you're saying?
Right. There were some lawsuits. There were some, wrongful death lawsuits.
We've had to do some resurrection spells and some rituals to reanimate.
We had to use some revivify scrolls. But yeah, it's all sorted now.
And Hamilton, any plugs for you this week?
For me?
Yeah, go around and do everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
No amazing audiobooks that I can plug, unfortunately. But if you want to see me see 2 hours of me staring at a screen edited down to 10 minutes in a nice orderly fashion, then you can see me on Hazard Stripes doing Necromunda stuff at the moment, which is on YouTube. And Bowie's in Spelljammer is coming out this month. It is happening. It'll be a few weeks from now before MCM. You can see and hear that will be on podcast. Well, I'm trying to sort that out with Fiona at the moment, but it will be. You can see Jeremy Cobb from Three Black Halflings. You can see Chloe from Deck of Many Aces and Taylor from the Backwater Bastards, all playing different incarnations of Bowie as they travel through the wild space, as they search down the evil space pirate Adamantium and his adamantium ants.
I'm so excited for that.
And we have a guest star, Kim Richards, as the Ziggy Stardust a few episodes in, which is very exciting. So if you like Illithids, you like Bowie, you like the Killer Queen themselves as well, all these sort of rock. It's like a rock opera in space in D&D, basically. That's what we've done. We'll also be at MCM Comic Con at the end of October. We've got a few panels and stuff. I'll probably make sure we'll put out a quick trailer about that at some point, Hamilton. I'll write that script quickly. So that'll be nice. I do have that T-shirt coming. So that one
you've
I
actually-
mentioned.
Okay, so for poor Mark, who has no idea what we're talking about, essentially, Hamilton in one of our recent episodes was like, "I've got a T-shirt, and you have to say a secret thing, and then you can come and get it at MCM." But but it's only one T-shirt, right?
No, I've got two. I've got one for you and one for the person who wants it.
So even you don't have a T-shirt.
No, I don't have a T-shirt. I don't want to wear that T-shirt.
You're just gonna just rip it off your back and give it to the poor MCM person that turns up.
If
Incredible.
no one's gonna turn up, they're just gonna be like, "Who are you?"
You never know. You never know. So whatever the secret password is, so we'll make sure we'll put that in that trailer as
The
well.
secret password is really obvious, by the way, Mark, because we might say it near
At
the end of
the
at the end of every show. So, Fiona,
Yes.
who are you?
Right.
When are you? Why
Cool.
are you? Where are you?
Great. Okay.
Now
Again-
Mark's thinking we're really strange.
Yeah, Mark's just like, I want this to end right now.
No, I don't want this to end.
Oh, my name is Fiona. I am an improviser and podcaster, and I also do the tiniest bit of voice acting, but it's so nothing compared to having Mark in the Zoom
Voice
room here.
of the Rooster Teeth podcast.
Well, the like tiny bit at the beginning, just saying
Yeah.
it is the Rooster Teeth podcast, and then that's it. So that's the 80 quid of that is done. If you want to listen to some more of our stuff, I also do What Am I Rolling, which is a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast, which we explore different RPG systems that aren't necessarily D&D, and just tell different stories with them. We're currently going through Flabbergasted, which is like a roaring 20s inspired RPG. So if you like Jeeves and Worcester, that sort of vibe, go check that out. That's coming out just now. There's also an interview with a good friend of the show, Charlie Mendez, who is from Parable Games in the UK, which is basically, he's just launched a Kickstarter for his game Don't Play This Game, which is a solo horror RPG about an entity that it starts to haunt you, and it doesn't end well for you.
Yep. Nope. I mean, it sounds great. I'm sure it's amazing.
I was going to say, it's not safe for
I'm not
Hamiltons.
gonna
I
play
think
that
that's what it
game.
is.
Because I'm a scaredy cat.
Yeah, definitely not safe for Hamiltons, is what I'd say. But yeah, and there's also what's cool about it is that it's a solo journaling game that you could do, different mediums, etc. But it also could be a legacy game, so you could pass it on to somebody else and haunt them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter for that is now out. So please go check that out, because it was wonderful to talk to Charlie about horror stuff, because that's my flavor of RPG.
Yeah,
Mark. So that's why I was asking you before. Is like, because I'm Queen Horror over here. So that's...
Yeah.
I'm camp horror.
I'm in between. I am a scaredy cat who loves horror. So yeah.
Same boat. Yeah, I'm doing some improv classes online, but that's not interesting to anyone here per se. So just keep checking out the DM's Book Club.
You don't know.
Are you going to attend a 10-week course on the documentary format, Hamilton?
Well, I've just been inspired to take more classes, so
That's true.
know.
There is one thing we've learned is take more classes to get better at stuff.
Take more classes.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, I think that's everything. Again, thank you so much, Mark, for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll sign off in the way we always do, which is we'll see you
on the flip
side.
See, there's the punchline. There you go. So bad.